Although everyone's focused Nottingham Forest as second in the Premier League after winning 5 games in a row, could they somehow be in the title race? What's needed in the January transfer window and what impressed us most in the win at Everton yesterday? We'll discuss all that and more in the company of, first of all, Greg Mitchell. Greg, good morning. How are you doing?
Good, yeah. Feel like we've done all right over the Christmas period, so happy at the minute.
Yeah, we've done all right. Not too bad. Michael Temple, how are you?
How is Nottingham's most positive man say we've done all right? We've won 5 on the bounce and we're second in the Prem. It's almost as if he's had some German visitors who've just drenched him in lager for 6 days, and even his positivity is breaking.
Drowning in positivity.
To the night, he really is.
Garry Birtles, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, pal. Yeah, good.
Good to have you all with us. Lots to get through. I want to talk about the game, the January transfer window, and the insane notion that we might be in the title race. So we'll get straight into it. Greg, last trip to Goodison, probably, unless we end up drawing them in the FA Cup, but realistically the last trip, or likely last trip. What did you make of it? What were the emotions leaving the ground? I'm sure it was better than we're doing all right. So talk to us about that.
It was great to visit it one last time and enjoy it after what happened last season. You forget, like, these old stadiums now, they're disappearing, just how unsuitable they are for the modern day era. But it was just great to be there, great to win convincingly, and understand exactly what this season's about now and the expectations. I mean, I think every one of us knows now that the aim's Europe, and that's just incredible. One way or another, we've just got to keep going and keep doing what we're doing, and we do, and they keep believing. The fans keep believing, and they just keep performing. It's incredible, even with the injuries. It was just a brilliant performance. One of my favourite games of the season, to be honest, because it never felt like we were in trouble. And there's always that cloud of a Dyche team knowing exactly how they're going to beat us and trying to take us down to their level. And it just didn't happen. We didn't rise to those games. And I was unfortunate enough to be right on the gate, really, between the home and away fans. And those home fans, God, there's negative fans out there, but I've never heard anything like the Everton lot. And I've got some good Everton mates, but yeah, I'm not surprised watching that week in, week out. But just incredible for us. Like I say, we know what the aim is now, and I think everyone's ready to see if we can do it or not.
After the debacle of last season at Goodison, with the 3 penalties we should have had and we didn't, that was, really good to see us not think about that and just go and win that game comfortably.
What about Garry as well? You'll have been in situations where you get a player injured in the warm-up. We lose Murillo, who's such an important player. We have to change shape at a moment's notice. I know we played 4-2-3-1 a lot. Sosa comes in for his first Premier League start as well. How impressive is it to win and keep a clean sheet in those circumstances?
Massively. I mean, we never got injured in warm-ups because we didn't do, the extensive warm-ups they do now. We just got up there, jumped up and down for a couple of minutes and, a couple of sprints, and that was it. And it is more extensive now. You watch the warm-ups, so professional. And sometimes, players do get that problem in a warm-up, but it doesn't sound as bad as we thought it might be. You're always a bit concerned. And for somebody to come in at a late stage like that, it's just tremendous, to come in, play alongside, I think, our current best player, maybe Milenkovic. I just think, it just sums up the feeling within that dressing room, the confidence that is around that football club at the moment. It's just incredible. And to be part of it is just, it's absolutely fantastic.
Morning to everyone who's watching. Over 300 people with us inside 5 minutes, which is great. Shout out to Andrew. As requested, his wife's making her first trip to the Sea Ground for the Luton game. Can't wait to feel what we all feel when we are at the ground. Obviously, the next game's away, and we'll discuss the Wolves game a little bit. But good morning to Andrew and everyone else, as I say. What stood out for you most, Temps, in terms of, maturity, or what was the most impressive factor for you in that win?
I just think that when any player is having a down day, there's plenty of others that can grab the game by the bootstraps, and not even between games, but within games as well. First half an hour yesterday, we were probably struggling to get a bit of a foothold in midfield, aside from Elliot Anderson, who ran the first half for me, was the outstanding player on the pitch. And just this efficiency with converting chances. It was a channel ball for Chris Wood's goal from Morgan Gibbs-White that was pinged at his head, and then those 2 touches and the lob finish, just making something out of a half chance, if you like, as that phase of play developed. But I think beyond anything else, we're just cruising past teams that have been long established in the Premier League. And I look at that back four of Everton yesterday, and none of them would get anywhere near our team. I'm not even sure I'd swap Matt Sells for Jordan Pickford at this moment in time. That might be a little bit of emotion, actually. But their back four were just nowhere near the level of our back four, even with one of the key players injured in the warm-up in Murillo. So the efficiency, the manner in which we're going about getting results in all different types of games with all kinds of tactical adaptations. I hear other managers. I watched the Sheffield United West Brom in the morning, and Chris Wilder moaning about injuries and suspensions, this and that. All of that's affecting us too. We've got serious injuries. We had Yatesy suspended. We've had our 2 starting midfielders off the park since the start of the season, and we keep finding a way. There's a positivity, a belief. It becomes self-fulfilling. And over the past 5 games, we've sent a real message to the league, and we sit second behind Liverpool, just in dreamland.
Just on the injuries then, Murillo posting on Instagram last night saying, very happy that I didn't get seriously injured. I think Nuno said they sort of implied they could have risked him in the game, but they didn't with an adductor injury, which I think is a hip muscle. So hopefully that's not too bad. Obviously, we didn't have Callum Hudson-Odoi either. I've not heard anything about him, but he had ice on his leg after the previous win before Everton. So we'll keep tabs on that. Just a word on Morato, Greg, and Sosa as well, who came into the team. Watching them live in the ground, what did you make of them?
They were excellent. I mean, clean sheet for starters. That back four and the goalkeeper just did a superb job. And the fact that they had to change the formation, they'd have had this game plan all week. They'd have known all week how they were going to set up for Everton. And to not just swap Murillo for Bolly was a risk, because that's the obvious thing to do, isn't it? But completely changed the game plan. Sousa looks so lively. You know, he could have had 2 or 3 goals if it weren't for maybe a bit of rust on the boots, not playing so much. But he had some cracking opportunities, some quick runs. He's a completely different player to Wood, which gives us so many different options. And I just love the fact Nuno was brave enough to say, we're not going to go like for like. I feel like there's something different we can do in such a short space of time as well, because we got into the ground early, and I think it was about 22 that Murillo hobbled off. So they didn't have a lot of time to figure it out, and they just both did excellent. They did. The way the defence works now, and the fact that these Premier League players that are just the top quality players in the world, the ball sticks to our feet. The amount of times they go running past, and you're so used to think, oh, they're just going to get through now, and it's just suddenly at our feet and calmly passed out. It's just brilliant. I mean, we can't keep picking up injuries now, but the injuries we do get, the next man up situations just work superb.
I was just going to dive in on Morato. I think he fitted in seamlessly in a defensive sense. And the only thing you lose with him is that bit of poise on the ball and the dribbling, the ability to play the 60-yard diag, which isn't typically what you need from a defender. That's a bonus that Murillo brings to the mix. But his hunger for clean sheets, his ability to win headers and tackles, his height, like Milenkovic, comfortable defending the near post. How many balls were whipped into our box yesterday? And but for those half chances for Calvert-Lewin, we dealt with it all day long. I think he's a serious player. His type, his profile is far more similar to Milenkovic than Murillo, but I think he's a player that has earned our trust very quickly. And if Murillo is to miss a game or two, zero hesitation in him playing 90 minutes.
No, he was top notch. Do you want to come in, Garry?
Yeah, I just want to make the one point about, why things are going so well at the moment. Everybody believes in what Nuno's doing. You can see that. Everybody trusts in what he's doing. And the fact that we are getting stats here again, out-possessioned by a country mile in some games. Manchester United, I think, had 70% of the possession. Spurs had 70%. I think even Ipswich at our place had more than us. Brentford had more than us. The only one that we've had a little bit more was against Villa, and we won that game. We've had 4 clean sheets playing that way. We all know, well, the players all know what is expected of them. We know we're going to have possession stats against us, but it doesn't bother us because we know how very, very good we are in that final third and breaking with pace and the ability. Morgan Gibbs-White now, I think he's stepping up to the plate more than ever. I think, his vision and the way he breaks up play sometimes and starts things, the weight of his passes for some of the goals we've seen just lately have been outstanding. And I think that's the main thing why we're doing so well. Everybody's singing off the same hymn sheet. Everybody knows what's expected individually. And as a team, we look at the back four and the goalkeeper. I think Sells needs a hell of a lot of credit. I think, we've tried different goalkeepers, but I think he looks, for a defender in front of him, he's just what you want. You can see he comes out, he's dominant. And we've got a centre half who's loud. You can see Milenkovic, saying, well, if he doesn't like it, you can see he doesn't like it if one of his teammates has made a mistake. And I just think that's rubbing off on everybody. I really do. And, it's just incredible the way we're going about watching things at the moment. It's Murillo and Milenkovic, the partnership is as good as anything in the Premier League. It really is. And, we don't mention the fullbacks maybe, as we should do, but they are coming into the game and causing real problems going forward in the final third and defending well. And it's staggering and I think people are still reticent to praise us for it. Certain pundits are still a little bit reticent. A lot of people are giving us credit, and we're not even talking about Chris Wood a great deal. The goals he's scoring at the moment. I mean, that finish was absolutely exquisite. The poise with which he just lobbed it over. He could have panicked. You see people panic in those sort of areas. And I think with the injury problems, we saw, the three you've mentioned out, the three who came in, Dominguez, Morato, and who was the other one? Who was the other one?
Who came in? Sosa,
that's right. They come in and just fit straight in. And, Bolly comes on the pitch. We've got him coming on. He's not starting games. So the balance of the squad is absolutely tremendous. The people who are coming on are terrific. They're doing the job that's being asked of them. The only problem I think we've got, and we say it all the time, is January. We've got to get a striker. Just in case.
We'll elaborate more on January. I want to talk about the first goal more with Garry in one sec. Thank you very much to Matt Allen for signing up for membership. Appreciate that. And Stuart Smart, thank you very much for the £5. Very kind of you, cheering you up this season after a bad 4 years. Hopefully things get better for you, Stuart. But happy to try and cheer you up in any way we can. That's very generous of you as well. On the first goal, Garry, just talk to us a little bit more about the finish and also Chris Wood. He scores all kinds of goals now, doesn't he? I guess he's done that all his career, but we're seeing, he scored from long range against Palace, and that was the deftest of finishes. You would expect from like a Ronaldo or a Messi type finish, but he's got a bit of everything this season, hasn't he?
I did a bit for TalkSport this morning. I was talking to Gabby Bonlaw, was the guest, and we were talking about that. Chris Wood, exactly that. He's got every finish. You saw the hat-trick against Newcastle last season. Absolutely stunning finishes. He can finish from distance. And we both said his movement's not extravagant in the box. And it never is from a very good striker. It's half a yard or a yard. You take a step forward and then pull back. And, you watch what he does when he's in those situations. Yes, he's going to miss some. He's not afraid to miss. That's what I like about Chris Wood. He's not afraid to miss. He keeps getting in the areas. And if he gets the service when he gets in those areas quickly, as he is doing, then he's going to, keep scoring goals. And the finish, it was not easy because Pickford's the England goalkeeper. So it's got to be something good. When I played against Shilton when he was at Southampton, it was the best feeling in the world to score a goal against him because he was one of the best in the world. You feel that as a striker. And the interplay with Elanga, was spot on. And, the second goal as well, it was just absolutely, beautifully worked and beautifully finished. You can't ask more than that.
No, we'll talk more about the second goal as well and a couple of other incidents in the game. Just before we do that, take a word for the Trent Navigation. Greg Mitchell is off the beer, he says, until February, so he can't partake in this. But
not now there's double stamps. He's not. He's back on it.
Double stamps in January, all month at the Trent Navigation. All you have to do is ask for a card at the bar if you want a new card. But you'll get double stamps for every pint you buy. Thanks to Trent Nav for their support as ever. You sticking to it still, Greg? Showing that result?
Oh, that was a nice private conversation we had before. No pressure or anything like that. Now I feel like half the world knows. You can partake because they do an excellent range of non-alcoholic beers as well at the Trent Nav, so everyone can enjoy. But yeah, we'll have a word with my team and see if it's possible.
Very good. Apologies for betraying private information there. I feel that was okay. Right. Back to the game. I want to talk about the second goal in 1 second. Just before that, there was a bit in the first half. The main thing was, should Tarkowski have gone? I don't know. Have you seen it back, Greg, or not? Or did you only see it live?
Annoyingly, Match of the Day didn't make a big deal of it. So, I mean, I rang my dad straight after the game and he said, yeah, absolutely. But at the time in the ground, we thought he'd gone. Like I say, I was right next to the home fans to the point where one of them shook my hand at the end of the game. That's how close they were. But they were worried as well. So in the ground, it felt like he was going to go.
I suppose the good thing is, Thames, it didn't matter. Probably didn't even feel like it felt like it mattered. It would have felt like that last year, but at the moment, I just think we're so confident that even with the 11 on the pitch, I still thought we'd win. But your thoughts on that and the decision in general?
I was glad that Tarkowski stayed on the pitch because I thought he was poor. He looked slow. He resorted to wrestling with both Chris Wood and Taiwo, conceded needless free kicks. His range of passing was decent, but he was pumping diagonals to players that were well marked. So we were more than equipped to cope with what he brought to the game. I thought it was a second yellow. I think, if anything, he had a complaint about the first yellow, but the one that wasn't given should have been for me. But in any case, it didn't matter. And I think the goal showed up the frailties, because if Mykolenko is alert and committed, he intercepts that loose ball before it's even picked up first time by Ilanga. And that was just symptomatic of Everton. It reminded me of the Forest of 2-3 years ago. A little bit passive, a little bit standoffish, not quite sure when to engage, got themselves needlessly deep and conceded possession in a really bad area. But from there, it was clinical, moving the ball quickly, changing the point of attack, and two of the deftest touches you'll see in the box from Morgan Gibbs-White to beat his man, get his balance, and sit Pickford down just so efficiently. I think that is peak Morgan Gibbs-White. That's what we want to see more of. His goal involvements have really picked up in recent weeks, but there's so much more within him. I think he can become a real force. I still think he's playing at kind of 80-85% of what he's capable of. But that moment in that game encapsulated what he is and what he can be if he can just be that little bit more consistent with these bits of magic, because he looked a serious player in that moment.
Thank you very much to Luke doing my job for me. 550 people with us, which is great. Just hit like if you haven't already. It makes a big difference. Will be much appreciated. I don't want to turn this into a Chris Wood loving, but Mikey did text me this. It's about Wood and Gibbs-White. So from being out of the game, he said, with my own eyes, the amount of defensive work Wood and Gibbs-White in particular would do staggering. Gibbs-White sprinted 30-40 yards numerous times. A lot of number 10s like Maddison won't do that. As for Wood, he sprinted into wide areas, textbook defending from the front. It's stuff like this that sometimes goes unnoticed. Just on that, Garry, having played that role, the work that Wood does defensively with Gibbs-White is, you always talk about defending from the front, and it's epitomised this season, isn't it?
Yeah, I watch him all the time, Chris Wood, and his attitude to close down players quickly, close down goalkeepers, and then you see Gibbs-White behind doing it as well. And I've seen on a couple of occasions, Gibbs-White, rightly so, he's not very happy with the people then behind him, because he expects them to close down. And sometimes, teams are being allowed to come out too quickly. Spurs at times, the other week were allowed too much space, too much time, and had Son punished us by playing Brennan in first half. That could have been a different game, but we picked up after that, and he was fine. It's a difficult place to play when you're up there by yourself, and his willingness to do it all the time, at pace, to try and close things down, to put pressure on, and it does put pressure on. It's great to see like the old fashioned striker, as he's been calling himself. But I think a lot of it's down to Nuno as well. His belief in Chris Wood in front of Wonyi is great for a striker, because you've got the backing of the manager when you've got another classy striker who's vying for that position. I think his all-round game is particularly good at the moment.
Guys, Chris Wood's got 80 Premier League goals. Just reading here, there's 34 players have made it to the ton. Do you think he'll join them?
Well, the way he's playing, absolute certainty, and deservedly so. I mean, he's made that place his own. And he's not going to relinquish that anytime soon. And I think you've got to mention as well, I think recruitment has been paramount in what's going on this season. I think we've had a lot of stick in the past about the number of players we signed, but this time I think the quality of the players we've got who are coming off the bench as well. You've got to give credit to the people in the back room who are doing all this, and still you've got to give a lot of credit still, praise to the owner, Mr. Marinakis, because he's backed us through hard times, through COVID. And, he bought the club because he wanted them to progress, because of the 2 stars up into where they are now. And, he's been relentless in doing that. And I think you've got to, applaud that, before anything else. And, he brought Nuno in, and at the end of last season, people were saying, well, is he the right man for the job? And I think we all agreed, give him the summer, to get the recruitment right. And I think that has been proved one of the best decisions for a very long time, because everything is just looking rosy at the moment. And it's no fluke. We are deservedly where we are. And when we beat Liverpool to get the double over them in January, then people might just start taking a bit of notice. We're still the only team to beat Liverpool. And you still don't hear a lot of people saying that. And it annoys me, because, that wasn't a fluke at Anfield either. We played well at Anfield. We defended well. Our game plan was good. So people start giving us a bit of credit.
How many goals has Wood got, Temps, did you say?
80 in the Prem.
Okay, so he can get 100 this season, can't he? There's 19 games left. Why not?
20 and 19.
20 and 19. We'll see.
Calm down, Matthew. Calm down.
No, you get another 10 easily. Well, not easily, hopefully. I want to talk about Gibbs White, Greg, and I was going to say, now he's fit again, is he back to his best? But I suppose in a way, you feel like there's more to come from him now, don't you, the way he's playing?
Rather than back to his best, I'd say he's never been better. Some of the balls he's playing now, some of the pings, the Premier League had it like play of the week, the goal against Tottenham that he set up. His vision, and not only getting us out of sticky situations with his skill, and it's an unorthodox way, isn't it, how he does? He's like hands and feet everywhere, but he seems to always get us out of trouble. Then manages to ping a ball 20, 30 yards or a quick play and back to him. He's getting on the score sheet again now. He's just doing absolutely everything a player you build a team around does. And I think that's the beauty of having him for us. If he was touted to go anywhere else, they're not going to build a team around him. We've done that, and we're showing now that how successful it can be, and we're getting the fruits of it. And I'm sure he wants to carry us into Europe if it happens, to whatever competition that is. But he's playing, in my opinion, better than he ever has, and he's still got more to give, clearly. So he's going to be an England regular if he carries on.
I think you've got to give Elliot Anderson a lot of credit for that as well. I think Morgan trusts in him to do the job he's been brought in to do, so it allows him a lot more freedom to do what he can do in that final third. I think Anderson's been, a fabulous signing as well. And I think what Morgan Gibbs White has done, he's cut those, the flicks out. Sometimes he was giving balls away and it's costing us goals in the last couple of seasons. I think he's stopped doing that, and he's doing what he does best. And when he's come on for England, I think he's looked terrific. He doesn't look out of place. He looks confident. He wants the ball, and I think he can get better without a doubt. And he is getting better.
Just on Anderson, Temps, you mentioned him earlier. It was interesting watching Match of the Day. They picked him out as being the driving force, which was true, and I'm totally on board with it. But it was kind of the performance we've seen from Anderson for weeks and weeks, wasn't it? And people are really taking notice of him now, I guess.
Yeah, it's being noticed now. And I think we spoke in the past of when we played these three in midfield, the blend was two minders to give Morgan Gibbs-White the freedom. And Elliot Anderson's just so much more than that. He can drop to fullback, get on the ball early in the phases, bring other players in, break the field. But he can also make those bursting runs, attract defenders. So I totally agree with what Garry said. Having a player like that is just so organised, positionally aware, allows Morgan Gibbs-White to do whatever he wants and needs to do, is one of the reasons why we're seeing that collective improvement. I think we kind of balked at the fee for both of those players on the way in, but now they look worth every penny, to really astute bits of business. And the blend becomes fascinating again, doesn't it? Because we haven't even mentioned Nico Dominguez, who did his job with aplomb throughout the game. But big fan of Elliot Anderson. I think he has got it in him to be the fulcrum, the focal point of this team in a slightly different way to Morgan Gibbs-White. He just allows him to kind of vacate that defensive third and get on the ball in more dangerous positions. So those players undoubtedly complementing each other.
And when he was signed as well, all the talk was, well, they won't be on the same pitch at the same time. How are Anderson and Gibbs-White going to play together? And this time next year, we're probably going to be talking about them in the middle of the England pitch together. So it's incredible how it's worked. And that Match of the Day picked up on that yesterday as well. The space Anderson creates for Gibbs-White to carry on and do his bits. It's a perfect combination.
Yeah, I don't know if we didn't misread Anderson. I just think we didn't know enough about him. I didn't know enough about him in terms of the defensive side of the game and what he can do. Hello, Evan.
It's like that BBC moment.
Yeah.
Hello, mate.
Oh, that's sweet. The people who are listening, not watching, Temps his son as Gate Crash matters, and he's giving his dad a hug. Right. There's so much to talk about the game. And I want to talk about other stuff. If you want to, there's a big game discussion yesterday that we did on a post-match show, but there's lots of other players, and we can't talk about them all. So, Greg, if you want to talk about one or two other players that stood out for you, if there's anyone you wanted to address or not.
We touched upon Nico. I loved how I think we were 2-0 up and we almost scored a third, and Sousa and Nico are giving it that, getting the crowd going, and it's simple things, but you just love to see that. And the pair of them played out their skin again. Nico's made that position his own, which is like none of us expected that. But I mean, we've spoke about pretty much everyone. Not having Yates there, we thought was going to be a huge issue. Wasn't at all. Again, just changed the game plan slightly.
Just somebody else, Greg, we've not really mentioned. Aina, he's been terrific. He's been absolutely terrific going forward and defensively. People are talking about his forward prowess, but he's been defending particularly well as well.
What I'd say with Aina was he marking their number 10? He was having a lot of trouble in the first half of the game against him. And it's the first time I've seen him look, not panicked, I'd say, but making the odd little mistake. And I thought, but second half, he'd sorted it all out. Ironed it out, and he was absolutely superb again. And we're quick learners, aren't we? We're a clever team, and that was brilliant to see. Because, like I say, first 20 minutes, I thought, oh dear, we're in trouble down that side there. Iron's he looks like he's struggling a bit, but the way he adapted and he got a bit more support and really came strong in the second half.
Yeah, he was good. Aina was really good. Undai is a good play. He's like Everton's probably only flair player on that pitch. So he did well. You wanted to talk about Aina, Temps. You text me just before you come in on that. Aina's been linked with Man City in the last couple of days. Obviously out of contract. Kyle Walker, he's playing. I don't know what he's doing this season. Talk about Aina and any worries. I mean, realistically, I suppose you've got to be a little bit worried, haven't you, if he's not signed that contract and Man City are interested.
Well, do you remember that moment last season when Ola Aina just jogged past Kyle Walker as if he wasn't there? And I think there's a change in the guard in that sense. There's no way in this world that Kyle Walker is a better player than Ola Aina at this moment in time. I think he's a Champions League level fullback. I think his adaptability counts for a lot. He can play right side, left side. The most impressive thing for me is his one-on-one defending. He is a real handful to get past because of his awareness, his body positioning, and his out-and-out pace. But the thing that's come to the fore as well is he doesn't panic. He doesn't look to launch it. He doesn't clear his lines with channel balls. He plays his way out from the back. And that's high risk. But he does it with accuracy and poise. And that's a rare commodity, I think, from a player who's in his second season in the Premier League. I think he's outstanding. I'm not surprised he's attracting interest from Manchester City. And all I would say, it would take an exorbitant fee to get him out of Forest. Let's hope he signs this contract sharpish to allow us to make that decision.
When does his contract ends? I'll have to check that. Sorry, I thought it was this summer. Perhaps he's gone 2 years. I'll check that. One other player, Garry, that we haven't even mentioned, who I thought had perhaps his best game for the club, and we haven't even touched him, is Elanga, who's got 3 goals in a row, a really good assist as well for this game. His energy levels were extraordinary. What is it with Elanga at the moment? Is it confidence? Is it quality shining through? What's changed for him? He wasn't at his best earlier in the season, was he?
I think it's getting a regular start. Because of the nature of the Premier League, how fast and furious it is. If you're expected to come in 1 in 3 and start 1 in 3, it's a little bit more difficult. But I think because he's starting games and he's scoring, we're starting to see the best of him as well. And the finish against Tottenham, that was a quality finish as well. Everything about that goal was absolute brilliant. And he's just got to get that consistency. If he can get the consistency because he's being picked on a regular basis, then, I think he can be a major player for us because he has got scintillating pace. And I think he's giving Hudson-Odoi, a lot of confidence as well. The two of them are causing havoc. It's almost like, when we played, I've been talking about it today, goalkeeper cells, 2 centre-halves like Kenny Burns, Lloyd, Chilton. And then you've got, we had John McGovern in centre of midfield, but you've got Elliot Anderson in there. And, I was lucky enough to play with Robertson and O'Neill in wide areas. And Chris was lucky enough to play with Hudson-Odoi and Elanga. So there's a lot of similarities in the few of the positions. And I just love the confidence of the whole team. They're oozing with confidence. And you've got to put that down to what Nuno's doing. I don't know what he's doing behind the scenes, but he's doing something very, very special indeed, because there's a total and utter belief in everything he does. He's got it wrong a couple of times, the Fulham game at home when he went 2 up front, which surprised everybody. But then he learned from that I think a mistake in the system and everything. We lost that game. And since then, I just think we've pushed on and moved on. And he gets us on the front foot very quickly. We're not afraid of anybody. Brian Clough used to say, respect your opposition, but don't be afraid of them. And I think he's saying the same thing. The stupid thing about all this, the only game we've lost is against Man City, who everybody's been beating. That's the craziness of what's going on at the moment. They won at Leicester, which you thought they might do. But other than that, that's the only game we've lost. And it's just you can't stop smiling. I just love what I'm seeing. It's just I was lucky enough. I was going to the game on the Tottenham game. I wasn't supposed to be working, but then I got called upon by Amazon Prime because somebody had dropped out, and to go and watch that game and commentate on it. It was terrific because again, that counter-attacking prowess we have is as good as anybody.
Massively. Right, clock's ticking. I want to talk about January a little bit. Gary's already touched on it, and about strikers, and we'll come back to that. But Greg, what do you want to see, or do you want players to come in? Are you worried it might upset the apple cart a little bit? How do you feel about January?
I'm so confident in our structure and the way we sign players now, and the right fit. You watch these match day passes after every win now that the club are having to churn out on a weekly basis, and you can't what's the word, like make that like kind of connection. It's just so natural, and they'll sign the right players, but we definitely need strengthening. We need support. You look at how Murillo went off yesterday, and then Morata's already playing. There's only Bolly there. We need help up front for sure. And if we've got the FA Cup coming, we could be on for a good run in the FA Cup. We're going to need a bigger squad. Nuno famously at Wolves, I think he was like, only playing with a team of 15 or 16, wasn't he, every week? And he likes his small squads, but the team behind him will know, and they'll know that we're going to have to get players to sign for the coming 2 or 3 seasons. And I think the biggest thing is making sure that we do keep hold of Urinas and get Wood's contract for next season or the season after sorted as well. Maybe start offering Gibbs White and Murillo new contracts as well, which can happen at any time, but it just shows the ambition and where we are. And I don't believe Man City are seriously in Frina. They're not in a great position at the minute to be able to spend in big money, and it is going to take big money, isn't it? And that's the wait. So I do think we'll probably loan out a couple of players, maybe even sell a couple that aren't going to be playing, because there's some quality that aren't getting anywhere near the squad. But I do think there'll be 2 or 3 signings, maybe. I think we'll be one of the more active.
I'll tell you what, Greg, do you think it'll be one of those strikers who turned us down?
Well, they'll be knocking at the door.
I bet they wish they hadn't turned us down now.
No, they've had the chance.
Yeah, it's and looking at us at second in the table. Yeah, it's a very, very important time. You might not think it because we're in second place, but you have to maintain what we're doing now, and the only way to maintain it is trying to get more quality in there to keep the pressure on the players who are in that team at the moment. They need pressure. They need to be kept on the toes. You don't want complacency setting in. I don't think it will, because I don't think Nuno will allow it. But I think it's a very important transfer window, without a doubt.
Thank you very much to Martin Jury for signing up for membership. Appreciate that, Martin, and everyone else who signed up of late. I mean, I think for me, Temps, like what Greg says about retaining Aina and Wood is probably the paramount thing. And I totally agree with that contracts for Gibbs White and Murillo. At least start talks and see what happens. What incomings? I mean, just a striker, though, a forward for me, someone who can play across the front line. It's probably literally all I'd want to see. Am I being too conservative there? Do we need a little bit more than that or not?
I think we'll prioritise a striker. Of course, you've got to make way in the 25 to make this business happen. So I think if we think of likely potential outs, or at least emissions from that 25, you've probably got to have Willy Bolly on that list, Harry Toffolo potentially, Taiwo potentially. I wonder if the right player became available, would he risk chopping a Jota Silva or a Ramon Sosa? I'm not sure, but we're in this phase now where, as Fergie always used to say, you've got to get rid of really good players to bring in better ones. There's plenty of examples of that happening. Got to trust our process. Our recruitment in recent windows has been the best in the league. No one has made a bigger leap in the Premier League this season in comparison with our club. So we have to trust the players that they're targeting, the balance they want to achieve, and the priorities they're going to identify. For me, it's a striker. And for everything that Chris Wood has done over the past couple of seasons, the ambition and the mindset of this football department, are they going to want to go into a European campaign with Chris Wood as the talisman? I'd suspect they would love a situation where they offload Taiwo and they sign a European experienced player who can slot in and score goals on a consistent basis. I would suspect that is top of the list.
Taiwo looked quite bright yesterday, didn't he, Greg, when he came on?
Yeah, he's going to get a goal soon, but he hasn't got that pace back yet. It reminds me a little bit, and well, no, it's nothing like that actually. But do you know when Chris Cohen had his bad injuries and he came back, and you almost felt like he was still never quite there again. And at the minute with Taiwo, there's something missing. And I don't know whether it is that they're not ready to get that pace going again yet, but he's certainly still got the footballing brain, and he did do okay yesterday. But is he going to be able to do 5 games in a row if Wood gets injured? I'm not so sure, to be honest.
Well, that's the problem.
Minutes, Garry.
Getting first team football, is he? So where is he playing? What's he doing? Is he just training? Is he, what else is there for him to do? You can train as much as you like, but if anybody will tell you, if you're not match fit, you're going to struggle a little bit. I think Luton game is the perfect game to play him and start him and give Chris a rest, and just see what Taiwo can do.
Lots of names popping up in the chat, which is always interesting. Cunha, yes, definitely. McAtee. We discussed McAtee yesterday. Definitely for me. Rashford gets a mention. Probably no. Garry shaking his head to Rashford. Thank you, Nico, for the super chat. So we'll definitely discuss that one. Tammy Abraham, Temps. He's at Milan. He's on loan from Roma. He's got 5 goals in 19 games this season. He's recovered from a very nasty injury, and he's done very well in Serie A. Would you be interested in him specifically, or a player that he's 27, so he's in his best years?
I'm not expecting an English name. I'm expecting someone who's well researched and perhaps has the capability to score goals, but at a lesser club. And I think European qualification, or the likelihood of it, is such a bargaining chip when you're trying to sign a player. And if you can extract someone, I suppose Taiwo is not a bad example of this. We pulled him out of Hertha Berlin, where he'd scored plenty of goals, but wasn't playing at a top end club, and it kind of suited everyone. And he was great, wasn't he, for that first 12 months or so? So I don't think Tammy Abraham is going to be the one. You hear names like Evan Ferguson spoken about as well, but I still think we need to find the value to hit PSR. We're not generating the match day revenue, the commercial revenue of the clubs that we're displacing. We've kind of muscled out of that position. So there's still a need to find value. So yeah, I think expect to be Googling a couple of names and doing some research on the fly, because that's the manner in which we've operated. And in certain markets, Brazil, for example, we've found hidden gems who have become £50 million players.
Union Berlin, because someone's going to correct you in the chat, I know, for Taiwan.
Thanks, Dato.
That's all right. A couple of names were up there. Visser, Garry, just before we move on, very good player. I don't know. Any thoughts on names? I think Temps is probably right. It's hard, isn't it?
Probably more than Visser. I think Bueno from Brentford. I think he's done incredibly well for them. You know, he's the pivotal part in their team, really, after what's his name went abroad to Saudi. Yeah, I think he's been the most creative. He scores goals, he's got pace, and he's always a threat. And I think somebody like him would fit into the Forest team perfectly.
Yuri Alberto from Corinthians, a lot of people are mentioning, who we've been linked with, and I think Nathan Joy's discussed him a little bit as well. And yeah, there's this 17-year-old kid at Olympiacos, which obviously someone will be linked with, but I did read that they're going to keep him there for a while, but longer term, then who knows, certainly. Right, let's take a word for our second sponsors of this episode before we talk about the potential title race. But thanks very much to Global Telemetrics for their support.
Here we are in the ringing shop now. So busted in action, disrupting criminality. Together we can, West Midlands Police.
Like Global Telemetrics, another chop shop broken up just before Christmas led to 8 arrests, 3 cars being recovered that were in the process of being cloned. That's what it says there. So, and very well done on blurring out all the faces there, Mike Boynes, who supplied that advert. If you're looking to secure your vehicle, then the link is in the description to make sure that your car doesn't show up in one of those chop shops, much as I enjoy those videos.
Can we put a tag on Greg to keep him out the nav?
It's right, it's on the non-alcoholic beers.
Yeah, you watch.
I will, but through a tag and through monitoring. Right, let's finish up by talking about a title race, which does sound insane, but we are second in the league. Liverpool are absolutely miles ahead and smashing it, to be honest. But we might get pegged back. Arsenal are playing tonight, aren't they? So, but that's how the table looks. We are a nice cushion on the Champions League places as well, which is pretty crazy. Greg, the ultimate optimist. We're second in the league, so I guess we're in a title race. But are we realistically in a title race?
I honestly don't think anyone else is other than Liverpool. I just think they're unstoppable. I do. And I'm as big an optimist as you could get. I just want that top 4 now. And I think that's something we can realistically keep fighting for. There's a gap already. City are going to come up because it's City. I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't see anything changing with them at the minute, really. Just keep beating the teams around us, which we've done very well at so far, and we can get into Europe. Will be like, for me now, and I think most Forest fans would agree with this, if we didn't get any kind of European spot after the start we've had, it'd be disappointing. So just to get something would be incredible. But that top 4 is so realistic. We're halfway through the season. We've played everyone. We've played the top 5 away from home. They've all got to come to us. What an amazing opportunity we've got. And teams are beating teams all around us. So I just think top 4 is realistic. Liverpool have already won the league, unfortunately. But yeah, it's just fantastic to have the conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
I'll tell you what, though, there was the stat about Liverpool when they've only won it once and so many times when they've been top at Christmas.
Even this season, though, they're absolutely smashed West Ham last night. They're going to win the league at a canter, aren't they?
I'll tell you what, I watched West Ham, and the difference in the pace they play at, when they move the ball forward, it was static, from West Ham, and Liverpool just move it so quickly. That's why you always, when you do training, you do 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch. 3 touch is hopeless because people close you down. 2 touches better, 1 touch. Liverpool have got that 1 and 2 touch ability, but a lot of teams at the moment are letting them get away with that. They're not pressing as much as they should do. They're defending too deep. Trying to absorb everything, and they haven't got the ability we have on the break. The other teams, for me, we've got stability at the back. I think we've got the 2nd or 3rd best defence in the Premier League at the moment. We're the lowest scorers in the top half of the league, but that doesn't matter. We're 2nd in the league because we're doing a hell of a lot of things right. So when Liverpool come, they won't fancy coming to the City Ground. I'll tell you. Is it a couple of seasons ago we beat them 1-0 at the City Ground? So they're beatable. Everybody's beatable. Don't just say, well, Liverpool are going to run away with it. Other teams might all of a sudden have a little bit of a change. Their transfer windows might be better than Liverpool. There's speculation about Salah, Van Dijk, and Alexander-Arnold. Are they going to keep them? Because if they get rid of Salah, they're daft. They're daft. You see what he did yesterday. I mean, he's just a great player. So, don't write anybody else off at the moment. The game in hand they've got is the local derby. We all know what local derbies, can do. So let's believe that, they can have a little bit of a slip up.
725 people watching. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Hit like if you haven't already. Will be very much appreciated. Only takes a second. I have people in the chat temps are saying, Salah's could get injured and stuff like that. I mean, which is true, which would open a chink of light if Salah got injured or Van Dijk got injured. I remember Van Dijk getting injured. I don't want to wish injuries on players, but you know what I mean. Van Dijk got injured and they fell apart for basically a whole season. So it is possible. But I suppose the mad thing is, the good thing is, my brother texted me yesterday saying, I said, are you revising your prediction on where we'll finish? He doesn't support Forest. And he's gone from 10th to 6th. And it feels like that bracket's moving up all the time. And for me, it's like, right, top 4 now is on the way we're playing. What are you thinking about it?
There is no title race. Liverpool are going to wrap this one up quite easily because their main competition have already faltered. The race is for the top 6. And I think that the stretch target for Forest is obviously a Champions League spot. I believe that the 6 of the top 7 will occupy the top 6 places now. I think Newcastle will displace Bournemouth. Man City, the worst is behind them, and they have it within them to address it in the transfer market and from within the squad. Liverpool are exceptional. Arsenal and Chelsea have the squad depth that nobody else in that area of the table has. But I don't see that bracket, Fulham, Villa, Brighton, Spurs, getting to where Forest are. 63 points was enough for 6th last year. There's the prospect of the 5th place team qualifying for the Champions League in the right circumstances. So, of course, it's within the realms of possibility for us to be a Champions League team next season, and that's mad. But just to shut down the title race thing, Liverpool will win this one at a canter by 10 points or more, in my view. There's not too much we can do to impact that. But there have been some slip-ups. Other teams are valuable. And in the absence of a title race, we will see, I suppose, more of a grouping in those teams just beneath them and teams taking points off each other. That spell of consistency we've had has absolutely rocketed us. It's cemented our position in the top 10. That's beyond any discussion now. And yeah, I believe we're going to be a top 6 team. And the range within there is probably 3rd to 6th. I think it's on.
Just quickly before we go, Gary, feel free to come back on that. But also, I was going to ask you your thoughts on Wolves next as well, Gary. The 2 wins and a draw against Spurs since the new manager came in. It looks a trickier game than it did when, Gary O'Neill was on his last legs. So come back on temps and whatever you want to say about Wolves as well.
Well, Liverpool have lost Joe Gomez by the look of it with injury yesterday. His injury didn't look particularly good. And if key players, if they don't give them contracts, somebody's going to come in for Salah. How long will he stay without a contract? Could he go in January? Who knows? And a lot of other teams are getting injuries. You look at Tottenham's back line injuries. They haven't got a centre half at the moment. So things do happen like that, and it can affect you. If Liverpool just went and lost 2 games on the trot, which is totally possible, then things might change. Whoever, tell me, all the 3 of you, did you see Manchester City's collapse happening as it has this season? Honestly.
No, obviously, no.
No, absolutely. Nobody saw that coming. It can happen to anybody. It really can. You lose 2 games and they're not infallible. They, if you play the right way against them like we did at Anfield, then you've got a chance. Always believe you've got a chance. And the other teams, Chelsea and Arsenal, they're still going to play all the good teams in there. And it's not 100% given that they're going to win those games, because those other teams are quite capable of beating Liverpool on any given day. So, don't write it off yet.
We're going to win the league. Just quickly, Gary, Wolves. What were your thoughts on Wolves?
Well, I saw them against Ipswich. I did them against Ipswich at Molineux the other week, and they were dreadful. Absolutely, and that's that was the manager went after that. The scenes after the match were disgraceful. Cunha, who everybody's talking about, I'm still surprised he's not got a 6-match ban or whatever, whether that's still in the offing or not. Because he attacked one of the security guards security people from Leicester, Ipswich, pulled his glasses off his head. And Al Nouri, was it the other guy? His own teammate had to physically launch him into the dressing room because of what he was doing. So it's they weren't very good, and they're beatable. I would have more expected us to struggle against Everton maybe, or Brentford, than at Wolves, to be quite honest.
What about you, Greg? Would you take? Is a point still a good result at Wolves, considering Pereira's gone in and turned them around? There's a Wolves fan in the chat, so you might offend him here. But how are you feeling about the game?
I don't ever offend other fans. I think they're a tougher task than they were 5 weeks ago, for sure. They've been on a good run, but we're just on this unbelievable run, aren't we? And I want us. The last 2 games, it's been our longest run since 1995. I'm sure there wasn't a 6th in that 95 run, was there? I'm sure the chat can tell us. So
no, there wasn't.
It'll be a great one to finish it off with, then have that break for a lot of the players that they desperately need. I'm glad it's on Monday. Just give us that extra couple of days. Maybe that gets Hudson-Odoi the chance to get in. And Gibbs White, he just loves playing against Wolves, doesn't he? For obvious reasons. So he could be a massive, massive part of getting a victory there. But we're second in the league. Of course, we can go to a team and get a victory, no matter who they are. So we'll be so up for it, and it'd just be an incredible achievement for this squad to get our Premier League record in wins. So let's go for it, and I know they will.
Just on Wolves briefly as well, Temps. Cunha, his ban hasn't been resolved yet. He's been charged, but he went off injured at half time, so he might miss that game anyway. How are you feeling about the game? I still don't think a draw is a terrible result at all there. But how are you? How are you feeling about it?
We'll set up to win. I think they had a decent comeback against Spurs, didn't they? A good finish from Strand Larsen, who's a player I don't know too much about, but look lively. He's the likely replacement for Cunha, who we hope and expect, I suppose, will have his ban come through before the 6th. I think to Gary's point, that's they can't turn a blind eye to that kind of violence, interference with someone not even directly involved. in the game. They need to come down sharply on Matthias Cunha, a player that I respect, but clearly a character that needs a bit of work. So I think we go to Wolves looking to win. And whilst we do have Liverpool in this month, I think we also we play Bournemouth and Southampton too, don't we? So there are some more than winnable fixtures coming up. We haven't checked back on the European Dream tracker yet, but it's on. I'm more confident now than I've ever been, and I think part of my plan, if you like, to get to the points I think we're going to get to, includes beating Wolves.
Can you remember at the start of the season we said how important the 3 games were, the first 3 games? I think it was Wolves at home. Who were the 3?
Southampton away, Bournemouth at home.
Yeah. And had we taken more points out of that title race looks a little bit, which we probably should have done. And that
we should have been, Fulham at home, we were terrible. Yeah, I know what you're saying. European Dream Trackers on the screen. This is thanks to Danscape, who I don't think is in the chat today, but this is missing the win at Everton. It's not been updated yet, so we would put us ahead of Champions League qualification points historically, and then we could, lose to Wolves and still be on track. So it's all looking pretty rosy, pretty magnificent. Right, if you've enjoyed this, do us a favour. As ever, and as I've been saying through the show, 750 people with us still, which is fantastic, between Christmas and New Year on a Monday morning. Hit like, hit subscribe. You can sign up for membership or Patreon, or just give us a lovely 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. Greg Mitchell, any final thoughts, anything you want to say before we depart?
I was just saying I don't like to upset away fans, wasn't I? And I'm sure I'm not going to hit, but it was just an observation from the Everton game and the Everton ground, really, that they desperately need that new stadium. Like, desperately. My German friends were in the main stand, they were in the home end, and the first thing they said to me was, and this is, like I said, just an observation, it's just how it is, how old the crowd were at Everton.
How old the crowd were.
How old they were, yeah. And I'd noticed it as well. There was no like kids there or anything like that, or young adults that make the noise. The atmosphere was terrible, and it's because they can't get a ticket. And I see that at the City Ground now, the fact that you just can't get a ticket, like they've not been able to release season tickets for 3 years or what have you. And it just makes you realise that we desperately need those renovations, or at least a positive noise come out of the club about them either happening, or give people the opportunity to be able to go and make football not just a TV show, which it is a lot for a lot of these kids these days, because it was really noticeable at Everton, and we never want to get like that. Just how quiet they were, how, like I say, it was an aging crowd, and I'm sure they're desperate to get that new crowd into the stadium and a bit of an atmosphere, because it was as quiet as I've heard a ground in the 3 seasons we've been in the Prem.
That was a good point.
No offence.
No, I think that was a good point. Ticket prices are a bugbear of mine, and you're right about stadium developments. We'll have to keep an eye out on that. But well said, Gregory. Well said. I'm just buttering you up now because I've offended you early in the show. Temps, anything you want to say before we go?
Yeah, I'll pile in on the Everton fans as well. Some real potty mouths in the Goodison Park crowd. Some of the things they were shouting, Nico Dominguez and Morgan Gibbs-White in particular, made my eyes water. I know we all dish a bit out of the football, but yeah, they took it to another level. Credit to Nuno. He picked Zach Abbott on the bench. That could have been the end of the tradition of having a homegrown player in a Forest squad, stretching back to the 40s after Yates' suspension. It's good to hear Andy Reid on 5 Live, actually, who kind of foretold what was going to happen there. And I think it just shows that whilst Nuno isn't the man to punch the air and be over exuberant in interviews, I've just seen a bit from him, just the way he was with kids and the guys in the hospital, the content that Forest put out over Christmas, little things like that, which he hasn't spoken about. But there's obviously is a sense of club that we perhaps don't give him quite enough credit for having. He's a winning manager, and of course that has strengthened the bond that he has with the fans. But a very different character to what's gone before. But a man who's just transformed a struggling Premier League team into a genuine force. And yeah, really proud of what he's done over the last few weeks and months.
Yeah, well, we haven't even discussed if he's manager of the season so far. We'll wait for that for another day because we've done an hour now. Garry, any final thoughts from you before we go?
No, just keep smiling because, we might not see this again. We didn't expect this season. And again, I just got to give 100% credit to the owner for his continued investment in the club and how he's changed things around from we were a little bit of a laughing stock with the amount of people we brought in. Now the recruitment is it's paramount to get that right, and I think the right people in the right places are there for everybody to see at the club, and I'm just loving every minute of it. It's absolutely brilliant to watch.
It's mad, isn't it? I remember we beat Man U. Did we beat Man U to go third or Villa? I can't remember. And I said after we'd done one of our post-match shows, I think it was to Mark, you never know, this might be as good as it ever gets. And now look, we're second and we're talking about, are we in a title race? And I still don't think this is necessarily, maybe it's the peak of league position, but I think this can carry on all season for top four. Do you want to come in?
You're talking about the title race. Is there anyone in the comments that generally thinks anyone can overhaul Liverpool? I think the realization over the last 5 games that we can be a genuine Champions League qualifier, it just takes us to another plane. But I think that belief and expectation can be quite dangerous, can't they? And we've just got to play our part by being positive, back in the side, forgiving the bumps in the road because they're going to come. But there's definitely a scenario in which we get to 65 points from here.
Oh, yeah, definitely. At least. Go on, Greg. Do you want to come in as well?
No, I'm just first bit of local transfer news has popped up. Have you seen?
No.
Mike has just said Matlock Town have signed Matt Derbyshire. So
Derbyshire.
Good luck to him.
He's still going. Who are you signing for, Gary?
We beat them in the Derbyshire Senior Cup for Long Eaton United many years ago. We're in leagues below them. So, yeah, remember that pretty well.
Well, there you go. We'll keep on top of transfer news like that all the way through the month coming up, obviously. And we shall be back on Thursday or Friday with...
Can I just say the biggest transfer so far has been Greg going from proper lager to non-alcoholic.
Yet to sign the contract.
Yeah, short-term loan deal as well, to be fair, isn't it? Not last in the season. Right, we shall be back on Thursday or Friday with a match preview, because the game's on Monday, obviously, and it's New Year before then. And we'll have an opposition preview as well before the match, and then post-match show on it's Monday, isn't it? And then normal service will resume thereafter, looking ahead to, I think it's the FA Cup after that. It should be more prepared. I'm not even sure what day it is, really. In fact, I had to, my alarm woke me up this morning just by chance as the bins were being collected, and I had to chase the bins down the street in my flip-flops because I didn't even know they were being taken out. And it was a double collection as well.
That must have been.
It was, especially as new neighbours were moving in at the same time and loading their van at 7 a.m. Yeah.
Just let himself go since self-employment, hasn't he? Just has to force himself to bed, force himself to wake up, forgets the bins.
Doesn't brush his hair.
No, that's true. I haven't brushed my hair. Let myself go long before self-employment. Probably pre-COVID, I think, was the watershed, I would say. Right. On that note, we shall leave it there. Thanks very much for everyone's company. Really enjoyed that. Good to have you with us. And like I say, we'll be back on Thursday. So if we don't see you then, hopefully we shall see you soon.
Have a great New Year, everyone.